On February 20th, 2026, 3 Supreme Court justices appointed by Donald Trump himself voted to destroy the most powerful tariff weapon any modern president had ever assembled. The decision was 6-3. The refund obligation hit $166 billion, and it is growing every single day. But here is what no one in mainstream media has connected yet. That ruling was not an isolated loss. It was the first domino in a sequence that stretches from February to July 2026. And when the final domino falls, Donald Trump will sit down at the most consequential trade negotiation of his presidency, holding nothing. While the man across the table, Mark Carney, will hold everything. Every tariff instrument Trump aimed at Canada has either been struck down, been invalidated, or is about to expire. And every single collapse did not just weaken Washington. It handed Ottawa a new weapon. This is how one country dismantled a superpower's trade arsenal, piece by piece, domino by domino, and why July 2026 could be the most important month in North American trade history. Let us start with the arsenal itself, because to understand how badly this fell apart, you need to understand how strong it looked at the beginning. Donald Trump entered this trade conflict equipped with the most aggressive set of tariff authorities any recent president had assembled. 4 tools, deployed simultaneously, against a nation of 40 million people whose largest city sits 3 hours from the American border. Tool 1, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Emergency powers that allowed unlimited tariff levels, unlimited timeframes, immediate deployment, 0 congressional approval required, the nuclear option of trade policy. Tool 2, Section 232, National Security Tariffs on Specific Industries. Tool 3, Section 301, Investigations into Unfair Trade Practices with no ceiling on tariff levels and 4-year enforcement windows. Tool 4, the unspoken threat of terminating CUSMA itself. The U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, the ultimate fallback if nothing else delivered results. 4 weapons at once, against a single ally. 1 year ago, Trump controlled every advantage. Now let us look at what remains. The emergency powers measure, overturned. The Supreme Court ruled it unlawful in a 6-3 decision. $166 billion in refund obligations accumulating daily. The instrument is not paused. It is permanently disabled. No future president can use it. The Section 122 substitute he scrambled to activate, capped at 15%, set to expire on July 24th, contested by 24 state attorneys general, legally questionable when applied to an economy with a floating exchange rate. Section 301 reviews, launched against 16 economies, months away from producing any usable outcome, already generating pushback from allies across 3 continents. CUSMA, still in place. Though Carney has stated publicly that American actions have rendered it essentially ineffective in its current form. 1 year ago, Trump held 4 loaded weapons. Today, one has been destroyed by his own Supreme Court. One expires in weeks. One will not deliver results until long after it matters. And the last one has become, paradoxically, Canada's greatest shield. But here is where it gets interesting. Because the collapse did not just subtract from Trump's position. It added to Carney's. Every piece that fell for Washington became a building block for Ottawa, and that sequence deserves to be understood in full. Domino 1, the big one. The International Emergency Economic Powers Act was Trump's most potent tariff mechanism. It let him apply any tariff rate to any nation immediately simply by declaring a national emergency. No congressional approval, no investigation required, no expiration date, the supreme one-sided trade instrument. He used it to place 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, 20% on China. Broad Liberation Day mirror tariffs across much of the globe. At its peak, these emergency tariffs generated roughly half of all U.S. customs revenue. Projected collections over 10 years reached an estimated $1.4 trillion. Then on February 20th, 2026, the Supreme Court ended it. Chief Justice Roberts, writing for a majority that included Gorsuch and Barrett, both Trump appointees, left no ambiguity. The authority to levy taxes rests with Congress. 2 terms in a 1977 emergency law, the words regulate and importation, cannot support the largest unilateral tariff regime in American history. Those terms cannot bear that weight. Let that sink in. The decision did more than cancel the tariffs. It set a permanent precedent. No future president can turn to this act for tariff authority. The instrument is not shelved. It is eliminated from the playbook forever. Penn Wharton estimates refund exposure as high as $175 billion. More than 2,000 importers have filed lawsuits. On March 5th, the Court of International Trade issued its first directive ordering refunds of collected duties plus interest. The gates are open, and they are not closing, but Carney's gain from this moment reaches far beyond the numbers. The verdict confirmed every argument Canada had raised since the beginning, that these tariffs had no legal basis, that they carried no proper authorization, that they weaponized emergency powers meant for genuine national security threats against a treaty ally over commercial disagreements. Canada's WTO complaints, which had been developing for months, now carry backing from an American Supreme Court ruling. Every legal venue Canada is pursuing received an unearned boost on February 20th. And the $166 billion refund exposure has become a strategic asset all by itself. Every additional day Washington delays meeting its refund obligations adds another piece of evidence for Canada's global legal arguments that the United States repeatedly violated its trade commitments. The longer the delay, the larger the compensation total. The larger the total, the stronger Canada's negotiating position. Domino 1 has fallen. The top card is gone. Domino 2 hit the table almost immediately after. Right after the Supreme Court decision, Trump issued a proclamation establishing a 10% worldwide tariff through Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974. An obscure provision created during the Bretton Woods era for balance of payments emergencies under a fixed exchange rate system. A system that ended in 1971. He later pushed the rate close to the 15% legal ceiling. Section 122 had never been used by any president since the Trade Act took effect, and the limitations are obvious from its structure. First, a 15% ceiling, 15%. Far below the 25 to 50% rates Trump enjoyed under the Emergency Act. This is a water pistol where he previously had artillery. Second, a 150-day duration. Past July 24th, Trump must secure congressional authorization to continue. Securing that authorization means persuading the same Congress that already voted to cancel his Canada tariffs to reverse course entirely. The votes are not there. Third, the legal foundation is shaky. Trump's own attorneys argued during the emergency powers case that Section 122 offered no real alternative. They raised this point to emphasize the Emergency Act's unique role. In doing so, they unintentionally undermined the backup plan. 24 state attorneys general have filed legal challenges questioning Section 122's applicability under modern economic conditions. Fourth, and this is critical for Canada specifically, CUSMA-eligible goods remain exempt from Section 122 tariffs. Roughly 85 to 90% of Canadian exports to the United States qualify under CUSMA rules of origin. The Section 122 tariff effectively leaves untouched the vast majority of Canadian trade. Read that again. The tool designed to squeeze Canada barely touches Canada. Canada's effective U.S. tariff rate actually fell from 3.9% in September 2025 to 3.1% by December 2025 as exporters filed more CUSMA preference claims. The pressure campaign has instead pushed